Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. One or two other notes on this monstrous sellout, the deed done in the dead of night at the hour of the wolf. The Wall Street money power rolling back 716, the Blanche Lincoln attempt to limit to some extent, to restrict the derivatives orgy in Wall Street, the $182 billion that you're paying for AIG and their credit default swaps, and the gutting of the already weakened Volcker rule. In the House, interesting dynamics. Essentially, this is the new Democrats, the Democratic Leadership Council sellout types, right? The right-wing, pro-Wall Street Democrats, the blue dog Democrats, these useless creatures. But they're also joined by some people who usually operate under left cover, operating out of Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, the financial centers. And there was a petition by about 100 members, a swamp, the derivative swamp in the House came forward, basically saying, we love derivatives, defend derivatives, don't let Blanche Lincoln have her way, no 716, no limitations on derivative speculation by FDIC-insured banks. Look who led this. Congressman Stupid of Michigan. He betrayed the right-wingers. Now he's betrayed the left-wingers, to the extent there are any, on derivatives. He's also on his way out. Notice he's retiring. He's in the same class with Dodd. He's headed for a Wall Street-funded rocking chair. But Rosa DeLauro, Democrat of Connecticut, is part of the group, along with Jackie Speier. Basically, those were the three sponsors, Stupak, DeLauro, and Jackie Speier, for this pro-derivatives petition from the House, 100 House derivatives lovers. DeLauro, that's the wife of Stan Greenberg. He works for BP. He's a consultant for British Petroleum. And they're the ones who are the proprietors of that mysterious house. This is not the house on K Street in the Teapot Dome scandal, but even more infamous. We don't know exactly where it is, but it's the pied-à-terre of Rahm Emanuel, Rambozo, Deadfish, operating out of that mysterious apartment and entertaining all sorts of guests there. So DeLauro, essentially the roommate of Rahm Emanuel, or the house mother of Rahm Emanuel, or who knows what else. She comes forward to torpedo regulations of derivatives. This shows the entire political system is completely dysfunctional. The Democratic Party is essentially a zombie bank operation. And unfortunately, it means the depression will get worse. They could have done something on the German model against credit default swaps. Those are being used to attack Greece, the southern tier of the euro, and everybody in Europe. They're also being used, as we see on the cover of Time magazine, bankrupt. Every state in the United States of bankruptcy. That's the Time magazine cover story this week. All states, all cities are on their way to bankruptcy. Therefore, it's time for drastic, savage, brutal, genocidal austerity against the American people. And we've got a sample of that. The reactionary Republicans have blocked the extension of unemployment benefits for 1.3 million hardworking Americans. But let's shift gears. We'll get to that in just a minute. The G20, Obama, the Wall Street puppet, flew to Canada today. He had already signaled his strategy about a week ago with a letter sent to the other G20 leaders. Obama wants to do two things. He wants to force the Chinese to massively upvalue their currency, the yuan, the renminbi. He wants to end this fixed parity. This is insane. Fixed parities, to the extent we had them, were the key to the rebuilding of the world and the greatest era of industrial growth the world has ever seen, 1945 to 1971. Better than any monetary system before or since. Bretton Woods, essentially the last fruit of the New Deal for the world to a very significant degree. Wrecked by the British in 1971 with the help of Nixon, Kissinger, George Shultz, Arthur Burns, and the rest of these people. A rational policy would be, well, if we've got these two large currencies that are linked, the dollar and the renminbi, let's get the others to join it. Let's build on it. Let's make that the centerpiece of fixed parities for everybody. Get the euro to join, get the ruble to join, get the yen and so forth. Get them all to join, and we'd be on our way to eliminating some of this terrible risk that we're told is so pervasive. That's why they say you need derivatives, because currencies fluctuate. Stop the fluctuation of currencies with narrow band parities like we had under Bretton Woods. You won't need so many derivatives. But no, this Wall Street madman regime, now the ship of fools with Obama, is pushing ahead to destroy the peg. And the Chinese then said, all right already, we'll float the renminbi up a little bit, meaning that they'll buy fewer dollars. That's the recipe for the catastrophic collapse of the dollar, whether Geithner is smart enough to see that or not. So that was one side of it. And also in Obama's letter, he attacked the surplus countries being once again China, once again Germany, and to some degree Japan, that they should stimulate. They should not have austerity measures. You're now in an area where you're inside so many distortions. It seems like Obama's arguing against austerity, which he's trying to practice himself. He wants to weaken the other currencies. The best way to understand this maybe is to go back to the Carter-Mondale locomotive theory of 1976-77. You may remember Carter sent Mondale, even before the inauguration, Carter sent Mondale to Europe to argue in favor of stimulus by all the European countries to take some pressure off the dollar, to prevent the dollar from collapsing, because that's always been the issue for these past 30 years. So that's what they're trying to do. The attack on Germany also serves the purpose of keeping the Germans off balance, keeping them on the defensive. Obama wants to push the German ban on naked credit default swaps, naked shorts, other kinds of speculative transactions. Obama wants to keep that off the agenda in Ottawa for the G20, to attack Germany, to make the world safe for derivatives and hedge funds, because the Germans are the number one power-limiting credit default swaps. They're preparing a Tobin tax on speculative transactions of all sorts. They should keep that money in Berlin and use it to avoid this idiotic austerity that Merkel has now imposed. And the other thing, hedge fund regulations. You regulate a hedge fund enough, it's not a hedge fund anymore. You've essentially banned it. So that's the way to go with that. Other than that, it's basically the attempt of Obama, Geithner, Bernanke to sabotage the G20 meeting. What could they do usefully? Yeah, they could do something against derivatives, something against hedge funds, some step in the direction of a Tobin tax. The U.S.-British goal is to keep that all off the agenda. The other thing is, we'll talk about this later, I hope. We have these articles from Soros, right? And articles and speeches by Soros. Soros is mounting a hysterical attack on Germany, trying to blame Germany for the Depression, trying to blame Germany for the collapse of the euro that he keeps wanting to talk about. He wants to keep the collapse of the euro on the front page because he's short the euro naturally through Soros fund management and so forth. He wants to blame Germany for wars in Europe, a new era of European wars and nationalism and hatred that has not even started yet. But Soros is out in front blaming Germany for all this. The attack by Obama and by Soros in a more extreme foaming form on the Germans is interesting, because you'll see that the reactionary Tories in Britain have launched an austerity plan, which is also very draconian, very reactionary. But notice, there's no attack on them. Nobody's attacking the reactionary Cameron. They're attacking Merkel and Schäuble. So what is it? Are you against austerity programs, or are you just against Germany for reasons you're not mentioning? You're not saying that it's all because of the credit default swaps. There was this visit by Medvedev in Silicon Valley, which was all about modernization and technology. It's interesting how little attention the U.S. media gave to that Medvedev visit until he got to Washington for the cheeseburger diplomacy with Obama. We'll have to see where that all goes. The trip had the thumbprints of Chubaias on it, which is not a good sign. But on the other hand, there were some positive things